Good afternoon. My name is Zsuzsanna Benyó, and the title of my PhD thesis is Human Adaptation to Spaceflight. But why exactly this topic? Because within a couple of years, by 2030, the number of space travelers will reach more than 40,000, and it can be even your children who will go to space, or you as a researcher. In terms of our team, we have very tight connections to this topic. I graduated here in Semmelweis University as a dietitian, but I also have a degree in multidisciplinary space research. And my supervisors are all leaders related to HUNOR, which is the Hungarian to Orbit program, selecting and training our next Hungarian astronauts. We have our joint vision to achieve healthy longevity, not only here on Earth, but also in space. Therefore, we would like to encourage all of you and also other scientists to join us in this effort and establish the Translational Research Institute for Space Health headquartered in Hungary. We have two very specific goals within the first year, which are two meta-analyses. The first topic is assessing the effect of bisphosphonates in preventing spaceflight-induced bone, renal, and urinary disorders. The reason why we picked this topic as the first one, because if you go to space as a researcher, you will lose at least 1% of your body bone mass within the first month, so within 1 month. And moreover, this problem is interconnected with renal and urinary disorders as well, according to the studies. And it's all down to calcium release from your bone. Bisphosphonates are effective tools here on Earth, so there are already studies examining, assessing its effect in space or in altered gravity models. So our aim is to investigate whether bisphosphonates can prevent renal stones, urinary disorders, or bone loss in astronauts or space travelers. So therefore, we asked the question, can bisphosphonates prevent altered gravity-induced renal stone formation, urinary disorders, or bone loss? We agreed on a PICO framework. We collected studies where the subjects were either humans in space or humans in altered gravity models, mainly in bed rest studies. And we always compared groups where they took bisphosphonates or they were given intravenous bisphosphonates with groups which were control groups, so without bisphosphonates. And as you will see, we identified 10 outcome parameters related to this topic. So that's the outcome in this case. And we hypothesized that bisphosphonates are effective countermeasures to minimize bone loss, urinary disorders, and renal stone formation in humans induced by spaceflight or microgravity models. We concluded a very thorough systematic search, 5 key databases, and checked even the databases of key space agencies, NASA, ESA, and the database of the International Space Station. As a result of this, we identified almost 17,000 articles. After careful selection, there are 16 eligible articles where we extracted the data. One of the key outcome parameters is bone mineral density, femoral neck, and the data available in these studies were in percentage change. So here you can see the percentage change in terms of bone mineral density, femoral neck. And as you can see, they are partly done in bed rest studies, partly in space. And the mean difference amounts to 3.05, and the confidence interval is spanning from 1.16 to 4.94, which means that it doesn't include 0 as an effect size. We can claim that it's both statistically and clinically relevant result. And we can reject the null hypothesis. Related to the other key outcome parameter, we examine bone mineral density lumber, again in percentage change, and here the mean difference is 4.1, which again is both statistically and clinically significant result. We have some further parameters which are right now at the statisticians, so hopefully in August we can present further outcomes. It's really good news that we can demonstrate even several outcomes related to this very important topic. It's also a strength that these studies, these bed rest studies, and obviously the space studies are endorsed by space agencies, and we haven't thought at the beginning that we will have also RCTs, but the good news again that approximately half of these studies are RCTs. Obviously, there are still some limitations, for example, limited number of studies or limited number of subjects, though I need to mention that related to the other outcome parameters, we will have several studies conducted in space. Our conclusion is that bisphosphonates were effective countermeasures to minimize bone loss induced by spaceflight or microgravity models. Therefore, we recommend that bisphosphonates should be considered and included in the guidelines protocols in case of long-term, at least 3-month-long spaceflight or microgravity models. We also recommend standardizing research methods related to this topic because we faced issues with sometimes because the length of intervention was different, the measurement time points were not always the same, and also the formula were not standardized. This is the progress, the status, where we are right now. And related to the other project we have here, the topic is investigating how spaceflight or altered gravity levels affect body composition at different time points. This is important again because I'm sure you have seen astronauts on TV who couldn't even stand up after landing, and that's mainly because of losing considerable amount of their muscle. They can lose even up to 20% only within a couple of weeks. Obviously, there are also space travelers who spend only 10 minutes in space, which is not comparable, but there will be more and more with different duration of space flight. So we would like to explore the optimal duration of space flight concerning the risk factors associated with muscle atrophy and bone loss among space travelers. Our clinical question is, how do spaceflight or altered gravity levels affect body composition at different time points? Here we will examine humans, so not only astronauts, or actually, not only astronauts, because we will they will be exposed either to spaceflight or altered gravity levels like bed rest or other immersion types. And we will compare them with the baseline data. The outcome in this case will be the body composition at different time points. And we hypothesize that body composition of humans are changing induced by spaceflight or microgravity models. This is the preliminary research result we conducted, again, in all the key databases and space agencies, and we have almost 2,000 articles based on this search key. So as a summary, we have 2 concrete meta-analyses within the first year. So thank you very much for your kind attention with one of my favorite quotes related to space research. We choose to go to the moon, not because it's easy, but because it's hard.
Is there any age limit of going into the space for doing research for longer period of time?
As you can see, there is no more an age limit if you are a space traveler. Of course, if you are an astronaut, there are very, very strict criteria, just like in military, very similar to that. But as you could see on the photos, there are already space travelers above the age of 90.
Yeah, actually, but it's just for a short period of time, I think.
Yes, but going forward, since space is for all, we won't have only people like our upcoming astronauts. So I wanted to share this with you because maybe not everyone is aware that Tibor Kapu will be our next Hungarian astronaut, and the backup Hungarian astronaut is Gyura Cserényi. So I wanted
Another
to take this
question
opportunity.
would be, you know, I'm a gastroenterologist and I do endoscopies, and I see patients with taking bisphosphonates, and their stomach is horrible. They have horrible stomach aches and inflammation. And is it a problem, or could it be a problem for these patients who go up to and take so dangerous drugs? In my view, you know, dangerous.
There were preliminary tests, examinations before they used it in space, and there were no side effects. There was only one single case among all of these studies where there was one single person who had symptoms, as you mentioned. So he stopped taking bisphosphonates. So obviously, it's always very important to avoid any side effects and not to harm humans.
How was the bisphosphonate given to the patients or the participants in space? IV or orally? And this is a question to Amir as well. Is there any pharmacodynamics reported on the bisphosphonates in space?
Yeah, out of the 16 studies, there is only one study where it was intravenous. All the others were oral taken in forms of pills. And these studies didn't examine the pharmacokinetics or pharmacodynamics related questions.
And so bisphosphonates, they are drugs which you don't have to take every day. There are some bisphosphonates which you take once every 3 or 4 weeks. So my question is, did the participants take the medication on Earth and then went to the space, or did they take it in space? And so
they started taking this already here on Earth and continued that in space. Usually 3 weeks earlier, before the space flight, they started.
I have one question. Thank you for the presentation. Regarding your second project, are there any current methods to prevent the muscle atrophy that can prolong the optimal time for space travel?
Exercise is a very important countermeasure, so they always do exercise during space flight. But since there is a tendency that space is for all, and there will be more people and with diverse background, and limited space and time to carry out the same level of exercise what they do currently on the space station, the space agencies are looking at different countermeasures, how they could still keep humans healthy, but they need to solve the issue that they cannot offer the same duration of exercise or the same type of exercise for future space travelers. So the time and the methods will be limited in terms of exercising in space.